Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Art After Hours. I'm Shauna Robson with Creating Space Coastal, and in this video, I'm going to be continuing our collage journey by doing an intuitive collage, a papier collé or paper collage, and I'm upcycling an old book. Welcome to Healing Art Happy Hour. Tonight, we're going to be doing some intuitive collage. And for those of you who weren't there when I did the intuitive acrylics, this was actually, I think this is the first one I had done on my own. And then this is the one I did, I think, for class. So what does that mean to do intuitive art, regardless of what it is? I just wanted to kind of just give a little reminder of what I mean by that. This is an example of doing kind of an intuitive collage, but I did it in a tile style, meaning I did my tearing with my ruler, but I made everything rectangular or square. So you can do that to simplify. If you feel like shapes might feel intimidating, you could do a tile style. And then one of the papers that I used, this was all decorative. Well, this was decorative papers. I used maps. I used parts of a canceled check, some junk mail, old books. I mean, a little bit of everything. And tonight, that's what I'm going to be doing too. I'm going to tap into my stash of probably not decorative papers. I'm probably going to just look into my mix of either made papers, kind of like what Judy was showing earlier, or I don't know that I'll go to magazines, but like I said, it's kind of an intuitive process. So what does that mean? It means that you kind of build it as you go along. You don't start with any preconceived notions about what it's supposed to look like. Typically, it tends to be more abstract, but of course, when you're developing it, it could turn more representational if that's what you choose. But the idea is that you come at it without expectations, and that reduces some of the anxiety or the stress associated with, having this expectation and not fulfilling that expectation. You just let your intuition guide you in each step of the process, whether it's, color choices or shape choices or paper choices, whatever it is, just let the process happen organically or, happen as you go along. So I really tried to not think ahead for this. As a result, this, it's a little bit messier process because I'm building as we go along too. And I don't expect you to follow along exactly what I'm doing. I just want you to kind of see the process so that you can practice along with whatever supplies and materials you have. And you can, of course, you follow your own intuition as you go along. But I wanted to show you, some of the process that I go, all of the process that I go through. So I did choose this book. This is the book that I want to use for my intuitive collage or mixed media, intuitive mixed media. So I thought I would use that. This is actually a book, a fountain book. So I chose this page because I want to alter this image and have it be part of it. So that's pretty much all I did ahead that regarding that. But I also pulled out a couple things. I was doing some altered papers today, so I had some coffee out, so and some inks and things. So I just kept those on hand. I have some black ink. Now I don't think that this is water soluble ink, which is fine because I don't mind if things, bleed a little bit in the process. And this is a sepia. And so I was just had these things out that I was using. And I'll show you some of the things that I was working on as I look for papers to use. But I don't know for sure if I'll use those. And I have, some coffee, some just instant coffee, and I have some water handy in case I want to add it to that and do some coffee painting. And then I also have my coffee spritzer that I made a long time ago and things like that. Now, because I'm going to do some more wet medium with this, Yeah, that's one thing you do have to kind of think ahead of time is what your substrate is going to be, how you need to prepare it. Is it going to be durable for whatever medium you're going to be doing? So if I'm doing a wet medium, I have to think ahead a little bit because I'm going to need to gesso this page and, you know, to make it a little bit more durable and to be able to handle the wet medium and also allow the medium to stick a little bit better. So that's something to think about if you're doing a more of a dry medium, like if you're doing glue sticks and just, you know, cutouts and you're not using a lot of wet materials. Like I'm going to be using for my adhesive, my matte medium. And this is a more of a liquid. I don't know if you can see. It's just a more glue, you know, liquid glue thickness. So it's a little wet. Anytime there's moisture to make it more fluid, it's going to cause a little bit more buckling with, you know, thinner paper. Now this is pretty thick paper. It's also glossy paper, which things don't tend to stick on as well. And that's another reason why I want to do some processing before. Now I also have some clear gesso and I also have white gesso. So I'll probably use a little bit of both of those. I could also use some black gesso if I wanted to make some of this darker, and I have some of that handy if I decide that that's going to be something I want to do. I'm not there yet. One piece at a time. I have some tools and things next to me, some pens and brushes and, you know, cutting tools and things like that in case I need them. So I kind of just put some things out, but I don't have a clear plan and I'll build as I go along. That's the essence of it. Okay, so the first thing I do need to do is prep my paper. So a little bit of what that will entail, because it's glossy, it's a good idea to just take off some of the gloss. And you can do that with just a sanding block. So, but I think I'm going to do it with some texture underneath. So this is a cool technique that I saw somewhere along the lines, and I don't know which one I want to use. And you can do this with magazine pages. I don't know if it'll work with this thicker paper, but I think so. I'm going to try it. So this is a stencil, and I think the thicker the stencil, the better this probably works. And it doesn't even have to be a stencil, but let me try it with this. This is a screen for cooking fish on a grill. So I want to try that. I think that's a cool pattern. So I'm going to put that underneath my page, and then I'm going to sand over the top of it. And the texture will have open spots between these the metal grid. And so where the metal is, it'll sand, and then where it's open, it won't. So you get this texture underneath. And I might do just a mix. So you can do this to alter paper, magazines, and things like that. So I'm just going to do a mix of patterns. I think that looks cool. I like this picture, but I don't want it to be exactly what it is. It's even putting little holes in it, and that's okay too. I do keep some wax paper between the pages just to protect the page underneath. So, and you know, I'm going to be putting papers over in the collage, so anything that's open will be sealed, but I don't want too many holes in that. And then I'm just going to sand the rest of it just to take a little bit of the shine off. All right, and then I'm just going to wipe off the dust. Gesso is a primer, an acrylic primer, so I'm going to go ahead and use some clear gesso, especially here, because I want this image to show through. And that's when you want to use a clear gesso, because it dries clear and you're not losing your image. Where I, like over here, I don't care if I cover the words, but I want this area to be seen. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the clear gesso, at least for this area. And I'm doing this first because I want to give it time to dry while I look through my papers. So I'm just doing this and then I'm going to set it aside while we look for what papers to use for the actual collage process. So I'm just going to move over to my white gesso for the other areas. My apron on just to protect since I'm working with acrylics. It's a good idea. Just going to put some wax paper underneath this page as well. And that'll just keep it from sticking to the page below or getting paint on it, or especially when you start adding more pages, you don't want to mess up a page you previously did. Now I'm just going to put this aside to dry while I look at some of my options for papers. One of my files that I have for papers for collage is my alter paper. So these are various ways that I've altered some papers. This is with some coffee and then the sepia ink. And this was coffee. I think I had used some pieces of spaghetti on their noodles to get some texture, and then maybe some salt. This isn't really altered paper, it's a printout, but it kind of looks like altered paper. And this was just, I had some extra glue stuck to a page, and so I just stuck some things down when I was working on another project. So it's kind of a collage background page, but I can tear it up and use it as part of another collage, or else I could use it as background for something. And then most of these are just some different altered with coffee. This I think was lipstick. This is tea bags. After I finish, I just lay the tea bags on. Sometimes I'll put it between book pages or sometimes on other. This was some watercolor paper. And then just back like art waste, like things I've tried or played around with. And I just have these pages of, you know, where I stamp off to try something, or so I keep those and I can tear them up and use them in projects. This was one I sanded through a stencil just to kind of muck it up a little bit, and added some inks. This was also a stencil with that cool pattern that came out. Spray inks, more various copy pages with stencils and die cuts and all sorts of variations of that. I was using a die cut as a stencil, I think. I don't know what that is. This was that when I used the cabbage, purple cabbage, to make stains, so it's kind of a blue color. And then these again are just, you know, things that I did in class that really weren't a finished project, but I can use that colorful paper in another project. So I save those and then I can just use them. So I might use some of these. Let me just pick a couple out of here. I like this one. I don't like that. And that. And that. And that. Maybe. I'm not necessarily going to use all of these, but I'm just going to have these on hand so that if I feel like it, I can grab them. I'm not going to pull, of course, so many things, but I also have one of book pages. Let's see, maybe I can just bring over. I don't think this is, I can show you maybe this way. So I have book pages in here. Sometimes I've just torn out a page, or else I go to a book that I have some just random cardstock. I have dryer sheets and baby wipes. I'm not going to use anything that's not paper today. So, oh, envelopes. I should throw some of that in. So these security envelopes oftentimes have a pattern inside, like that. Kind of fun. That's kind of fun paper. Oh, I like that one. And then ephemera, I have old, this is an old journal from like middle school, 1979. So I did scan it in, but I could maybe throw something of that in there. So ephemera, I mean, I even have like my GMAT scores, things that I've scanned in, old checks, you know, that have some color to them, and receipts and things like that. Those could be fun. Newspapers, that might be fun. And greeting cards, I'm not going to use that tonight. Oh, greeting cards, I saved those. Graph and lined paper, like some of it I have writing on it, and then some of it's just plain graph paper, and that could be just fun to add. And craft paper, so pieces of cardboard and like brown paper bags and things like that. All right, my second bin, I have one of magazine and newspaper. So pages, like full pages that I like something on, I'll throw those in there. I already have some newspaper, so maps, because I like the look of maps. Let's see if there's any map here that, I don't know, throw a map. I like that one better. And as you're doing this, there might be a theme that comes to mind. Like you might think, oh, maybe I want travel or something like that. And that's fine. If you want to have a general theme that you develop for your project, I mean, really anything's fine as long as you let it kind of happen organically. This is just random paper to be recycled that I would just throw away. So interesting. And then oh, these are some of the made papers I was doing. So with old tissue from your gift bags, you can, I use my rubber stamps and I just go in and I stamp a random pattern all over the paper, and I just make my own designer tissue paper. So I have all these little, that's kind of fun. Most of these, oh, these are my hand prints. I just use my hand print on top of the ink pad. So that's kind of fun. And then some butterflies. So you can create your own designer paper. I always like butterflies, but I don't know. I don't feel like doing butterflies again. I think I want to do more like generic pattern. Okay. I like music though. I like some music. Okay. I'll leave those ones out. I'm just thinning the herd a little bit of everything that's in my toy box, and just pulling out a few things that I want to pick from. I'm not going to use all of these, but these are things that right now appeal to me. These are some wrapping paper. And I think one thing I'm seeing as I'm looking at some of these is kind of the sepia, the fall colors. That's definitely fall colors. I don't know about that. That's feeling more spring than fall. Oh, I definitely want to have a pattern to look at. I even like the image on the front. I could maybe even use, like it could be a cutout. But I definitely like to use the patterns. You can see the writing on it. That's kind of fun. I'm gonna leave that out. I like this black tissue paper. Let's see. Bring this back over. And then I've got, oh, this is napkins. And if I did like altered toilet paper or paper towels, things like that. Oh, there's a fall. There's a fall color. That would be cool. And then I have kind of a miscellaneous. I don't see anything in there. Okay. So I pulled those out. Like I said, that doesn't mean I'm going to use everything that's there, but these are things that spoke to me for tonight. And I am noticing kind of a little bit of a golden fall theme that's developing. So I'm going to go with that coffee color, the blacks, browns, golden colors. So let's see what happens. And then I like teal. Of course, is one of my favorite colors, but I like teal with the gold colors. So I think that could still work, even though that's not my primary color scheme. This isn't really either. It has a little bit of the teal and it has some blue in there. So just as something to be a cool accent, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I narrow it down. I think since I'm doing this, I have this one corner that's kind of dark. I want to bring in some dark, that contrast, that dark contrast color elsewhere too to balance it out. So maybe I'll use some of this other one, and I'll just start there. If you're not sure where to start, if you have a blank page and you didn't start with something on it, you can just literally scribble on the page, and now it's not blank. Or you can write a word, maybe, because it's probably going to be underneath whatever there. That's gratitude, because Thanksgiving, fall, it's all kind of I'm developing a theme here. What part of this do I want to use? I want to use some of this section right here. And the cool thing about doing this through images is that, especially, as you do collage, you do have to kind of worry about using other people's photography and artwork. So especially when you're using magazines or things where the artist might be out there and notice that it's their work. And if you can kind of mess it up to the point where you can't tell what it was originally, if you've transformed it, then it will protect you against copyright issues. So it's a good idea to, if you're going to be using things from books or other sources that is other people's print work, that you transform it enough so that there's no questions, so you can't get in trouble. So I think I'm going to use this piece. Usually I use my credit card to kind of smash things down, but this is a bigger version of it. So as you can see, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just grabbing stuff and putting it in there. And then if something comes to me different, then I will. Oh yeah, see that ink is not water or is water soluble. So when I wet it, it's bleeding a little bit. So that's okay. I'm okay with it, but just know if you're making your own papers, what, if you're going to be using it for collage, if you're using water solubles, they will reactivate. So just make sure you're okay with that. This is looking a little too, I don't know, not the right energy for me. I think I've got I think I'm going to come off on that, but I do want, I for sure want some of this. This is a great, this is napkins. Napkins usually are multiple ply. Sometimes 2, sometimes even 3, like this is a 3-ply. So you can use all 3 layers, but the image is usually on just the 1 layer. So use them 1 at a time. And then on these other 2 layers, I can put stamps, or I can spray them with colored inks, or, do something to change, make that more interesting, or I could just use it as texture. But for now, I just want some of this fall foliage. And one of the fun things is when you tear, you just never know how it's gonna, if you're kind of just randomly tear, you don't know really how it's gonna tear the shape. And that's kind of fun to have that, like, just kind of happen without you really having a lot of control. You can control the tears, but I like to just see the shapes that are made when you haphazardly tear. And the cool thing is you're going to see what's underneath it. So some of those words that were on the original page are coming through underneath that gesso. They're just much more subdued. It's a good idea to have multiple shapes, multiple sizes. You don't want to have everything cut really big or everything cut really small necessarily. It's good to mix it up to give it some interest. Unless your intuition says, hey, I want everything the same size, Of course, follow your intuition, but artistically speaking, it tends to add more interest if you can mix up the shapes, the colors, the sizes. It all adds to the variation of it and the artistic interest composition. And when you're tearing, just a little tip, if you want the white to show, if you tear it towards you, up towards the pattern, you can tear it away from you as long as you're tearing up towards the pattern. Because if you tear it down away from the pattern, So if I push this down, I'm not getting that white here. I'll have some white on this side. So it depends on the side you want it to be, but just be aware that, you know, depending on how you tear it, it's going to change whether you have that torn edge or a smooth edge. And I like the torn edge look. Hi, just a little reminder to please hit the subscribe or the like button, or make a comment or put a question if you find this content helpful. All right, let's get back to the program.
Shauna,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to like interrupt right now, but I must say it is so nice to be here right now and like in this day, like sitting here and watching you do this.
Aw, thank you.
Like the silence like right now is so amazing.
Aw, thank you.
I love like having this class every Friday.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing. You don't need to apologize for saying that. That's that feeds my soul to know that you're appreciating what we're doing here. So thank you. This is kind of fun, and I feel like this is a different texture that's not already there. So I feel like that could come in. One thing about this style is you're committed. I mean, you know, if you're gluing as you go, sometimes if I'm, depending on the style I'm doing, I might lay out my pieces first, but with this, you're just kind of going with the flow. So I'm just gluing as I go. And I mean, I lost something that I had down there that I'm not going to use, but that's okay. It just felt right to put that there. So, but there's no going back really. I mean, you can go over, but you can't, can't go back to where it was. Gonna let things, I like the tissue because it lets things show through. So even if you go over something you already have and like, you're not losing all of it. And I did use some permanent, the archival ink for my stamping to make sure that on these, to make sure it didn't bleed. Yeah, see how it just shows those pieces underneath? So you're not losing them, you're just subduing them a little bit. And this could turn out to be a background for some other focal point, or it can be the piece itself. It's really up to you. And it could be, you could leave it one way and then add something later on, just however your intuition leads you. And I haven't decided yet. Now see how it's activating some of that, but that's okay. I think that kind of looks cool. Activated like that. It's not losing the whole image. It's just activating some of that. Oh. I might have found a focal point. Sorry. I just opened up my journal, and this journal from back in the day, and it opened up to this thanks. And I was thinking about gratitude and Thanksgiving and things like that. So I thought, well, maybe this is the focal point. It's basically just a brainstorm about what I'm thankful for, and it includes a lot of misspellings, but it's toys and teaching. That's interesting. I'm thankful for teaching in 1979. For something school brain. Not sure what that is. Good school. I was clearly brown nosing. A nice teacher. I wasn't stupid. Food. I'm always thankful for that. Home, being born, learning, knowing. Clothes, friendships, jewelry, family, love, friends. And then I have my friends' names, Amy, Kim, being my friend, presents. And then I notice when money, nice parents, a watch that's spelled wrong. I noticed that every time I see one of these brainstorms back then, I always add etc. because there's always something else more. So I think I found my centerpiece or centerfold. It's kind of big, but I think I could just put it literally right in the center, and maybe I'll just clean up the edges a little bit and make those interesting. So I opened right to it. So it just, I don't know, felt like it was calling to me. That's gonna dry. I'm gonna put that in. I think I gotta do that really before. I do anything else. But I like it. I've got some fun textures, a variety of textures and colors. And then of course this is going to be in the middle and it's going to cover quite a bit, but let me dry this and then I'm going to glue it down and then I'm going to maybe do a little bit of some gesso or just kind of softening it a little bit. I don't know. I might do some more pigments. I don't know yet, but you know what I think would be fun with this, because I know it's really hard to see my writing. So I think before I glue it on, I might just try to write over the words with the marker. It's not going to be the original writing, but I think I'll try to write it like in the handwriting, like I'll trace over the handwriting. I don't know, because I think it's just, well, or at least the thanks, maybe not the whole thing, but at least the thanks. My writing is still just as bad as it was back then. FYI. Maybe I'll just do the circle. I'll call it a day. It's hard to see on the camera, but I can see it in person. So maybe that's enough. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see. See all the little pencil writings. I feel like I should leave it. All right, let's get this glued down. And then I have to decide if I want it to be kind of in the center and on the fold, or if I want it to be off to one side. I know I really like it in the center. You know what? I'm following my intuition. Good, better, otherwise I want it in the center. Well, let's just make it happen. I'm going to put a little bit of gesso on that, but I'm going to let that dry while I just rinse my brush a little bit. Okay, I think this is dry. I'm going to put a little bit of, I'm going to play around with some white gesso, especially maybe around the edges. I just want to, I don't know, soften it up a little bit. Not too much. I don't want to like make everything white, but I just want to, I don't know, blur the edges a bit, just soften some of the contrast. Maybe a little bit of some black. I'm gonna stop there. But I do enjoy the different textures and colors that are in there. There's a lot going on, a lot of movement around it. And this is sort of the, I guess, the calm in the storm of things that are around it, maybe. And it's a good center piece because it's about thanks. And I think that, you know, we're at a time when we're thinking about, you know, what we have to be thankful for. So let's get rid of all of this stuff around so you can kind of see it without all the junk. There we go. It's a really quite large spread. And maybe I feel like it needs one other element. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, like one of these ladies. Let's see, what year was this? That'd be really cool if this was from 1979, the year that this is from. I could probably search it up, but you know, maybe I could put it, I just feel like it needs some kind of element, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that would be, like right in here to kind of act as a little accent piece. So I'm going to just leave it since I'm not sure. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Healing Art After Hours. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment if you find this content helpful. And as always, happy creating. Bye.